You hear the name LeBron, Obama, Shaq, all single names, very clear about who they are, you don't have to identify who they are, there's no confusion. Around our building, you say the name Mac, just everybody in the building knows, every student, every teacher knows exactly who you're talking about. I'm told he can dress somewhat outlandishly. I've never noticed that. I think it's just about confidence. It's just about confidence, that's all it is. Mac, if you know anything about Mac's classroom, he has an open door, a true open door policy. He never shuts his door. And you can wander in and out, you can join classes whenever you want. C Hall can get pretty loud, whether it's one of us yelling for help from Vinny, to get Vinny down to the gym, or Vinny yelling at Tommy to get him to do anything at all. But Tommy's not here, right? But those indiscretions, they don't go unnoticed by Mac by any means. You'll either hear from the classroom, if you're yelling in that hallway, "Excuse me," or "Oh, baby." And even worse, you could walk, like after that, you walk past the classroom and you get this unbelievably cold stare, right, from Mac. But it's not just Mac, it's his kids too. The entire class are looking at you. Because they know the shit's going to hit the fan in one second. Now our building is just loaded with outstanding classrooms. They're enriched by tremendous teachers. Don't let the governor or anybody else even trying to have you think otherwise. You should clap. And while there may be classrooms where there is more by the book education taking place, I challenge you to find me a class where more real life education is taking place than in C27. And I really challenge you to find me a classroom where the kids leave with more smiles. You go in there and he's just got them in the palm of his hand. His passion for subject matter from Vietnam to current day politics is incredible. But it's always been his life lessons. It is and it always has been those life lessons that our 15 to 18-year-olds hold dearly to him, separate him in their eyes. I had been teaching at East Brunswick for about 10 years when my wife and I decided to pay the tuition for our two sons to come to East Brunswick. Haven't had that ultra-professional duty first period where Les sends me out to pick up his delinquents and that. And he's not here, right? I'll have freaking lunch duty next year. I got to see all of our teachers in action. And Mac, truly the highest compliment I can pay you is that I made sure that Sharon put each of my boys in your class. I really did. Mac taught sort of a transitional class back then, remember, for transfers. And I often wondered how uncomfortable my boys were. I uprooted them from their friends and that. But Mac was like an oasis for them. He made them laugh. I wasn't crazy about, driving home trying to give my opinion on something and they'd go, "Oh no, Mac said." Mac said. But, I also wondered about how the other kids from really different backgrounds that were in that class, sometimes even different countries, felt about it. Imagine their emotional state, when Mac throws one of those patriotic or political tirades at them, The only thing I could equate it to was the fear that the 100 or 50 so kids we put in the boys' locker room during Tuesday's lockdown with ex-Marine Harry Morris in charge. That had to be slightly unnerving.
Former Marine.
Yeah, you weren't acting like a former Marine. If you don't know, Mac's background as an outstanding track athlete, both at St. Joe's and Seton Hall, probably led him into coaching, I would think. But I'll tell you, being a superior competitor doesn't always translate to success in coaching. As a coach, Mac is a motivator, consummate teacher, honest almost to a fault, and at best when he's under fire. That's how you become a Hall of Fame coach, an honor recently bestowed upon him, and very, very well deserved, Mac. Now, Mac's team accomplishments and individual accomplishments, they're so well documented. But I was able to find some examples of those coaching traits not quite as well known as the many championships. Maybe give you a better insight into the man himself. Who else but the consummate teacher would go off on a wild tirade simply because the track official didn't know how to use his starter's pistol? Mac demonstrated it for him right in the middle of a track meet, falling just short of firing the sucker himself. To this day, you can, if you go to a track meet, you can, if a guy hesitates to shoot the gun off, you'll hear Mac, "Shoot the gun!" You really want somebody at their best under a lot of stress, and Mac's quick thinking at a meet versus Perth Amboy may have prevented quite a scandal, with possible international ramifications, to be honest. Often as coaches, we take on students as managers who have some physical limitations. We try and get them involved, and it's great for them. And Coach Mandy, out of the goodness of his heart, took on a young man with a physical problem to keep stats on a clipboard at the finish line, not knowing that the young man had Tourette's and was prone to racial slurs whenever he got excited. So his first meet as manager is versus Perth Amboy. With Coach Mandy nowhere in sight, by the way, the sprinters from EB and Perth Amboy, they're flying towards the finish line with our new EB stat boy screaming with enthusiasm. Yeah, you got it. He let one out. You can use your imagination as to what the kid involuntarily blurted out. Mac's reactions that day were something of legend. He confiscated the clipboard, apologized too many times to mention, fired the young man right on the spot, and diffused this delicate scenario by throwing Coach Mandy so far under the bus with the Perth Amboy people, it was unreal. I didn't hire him. I didn't write it. You didn't hire him, Mac. Mr. Knoppenberger, not to be confused with me anymore, provides each of his coaches with a manual that covers everything you could need, including our policy on making cuts from a team roster, and how to soften the disappointment for those who don't make the team. Mac may have tweaked this ever so slightly, mainly because he's brutally honest. The guy's honest, you know. As an example, and I quote, "Girls, today is cut day. The cut time in this event is 32 seconds. If you don't make the cut time, you are cut. No tears. Pick up your gear and leave immediately." Now, sometimes someone who didn't make the time will hang around somewhat unsure of the results. Again, brutally honest Mac, and I quote, "What was the cut time? And what was your time?" That's right, you're cut, go home. The following day, one of these now former track candidates comes to Mac wondering if perhaps, this is my quote, this is my favorite of all time, comes to Mac wondering if perhaps the cut time was a bit too ambitious to make, to make the team, to which Mac replies, and again I'll quote, "You didn't make the time, therefore you borderline stink." We could all use that kind of honesty with kids nowadays, I think. Like, if you've been talking to Mac at all recently, you know his next pursuits revolve around a seat on the Board of Education. That's a good thing. That's a good thing for EB on so many levels. But I can't help but wonder where we would be if he were our lead rep during recent contract negotiations, right? I can really appreciate how much effort our team negotiators put in with each contract. However, does anyone else feel those talks might have been slightly more combative with Kevin sitting at the head of the table. I doubt we'd find ourselves in some of the stages of advancements as professionals if my friend Kevin Mack were the voice of reason. Again, this is what I think the quote would sound like. Finger in the air. Let me see if I understand this. You're a mediator, and you're talking salary freeze. Clearly, you are, and always will be, a scab. Oh, baby, freeze this. Close, right? Gotta be very close. Max worn many hats in his year in the East Brunswick system, and he's left many marks of distinction in his career. But first and foremost, he's a good man, a good husband, I'm sure, a great father, and if he's your friend, you've got one for life. For life. Mac, we all thank you for many years of smiles and being for that guy who is truly comfortable in his own skin. Kevin.